What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York, invading California for Namm 2020, and we return with Jared, a.k.a. Bone Mop, from Archspire. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you, too. So we got to get this out of the way. Apparently, you have a little dirt on Ollie for giving me this inside info.
Well, you were asking about stories about Ollie. So on this last tour, we did a sound check. We were in Glasgow, Scotland, and it was like, where's Ollie? We're doing sound check. And everybody's ignoring me. Everybody's just turning around. I'm like, am I going fucking crazy? Like, what is going on here? And because he just skipped sound check, so I was like, that's really strange. I wonder what's going on with Ollie. I hope he's doing okay. And then he shows up for the set, and he's acting sort of strange. He won't tell me where he's been, and he's like, And anyway, he gets on stage. We're playing the show, and he's like, so anyway, I got this tattoo today for Jared's mom. And he pulls up his sleeve, and he's got a tattoo covering his whole bicep of like a rose and a heart, and it just says in this really nice writing, it says Jared's mom.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. It's serious. It's huge. It's huge. So he's like, oh, you got to get Ollie back. You can't get Ollie back. Okay. You can't win.
Yeah.
So like, you just can't win.
Yeah. Like, I think, and even if you try to, you're setting yourself up for more.
If you're willing to take up that amount of real estate on your body for a joke, you can't win.
I'm not amused. I'm like just beyond impressed.
It was amazing. It's amazing. It's a beautifully done tattoo as well. So at least it's a nice tattoo.
Yeah. So moving on, we're like Relentless Mutation is now hitting the 3-year-old mark. So we'll just get this out of the way. Can we be expecting some new Archspire fairly soon?
Yeah, we're writing right now. We don't have some downtime from tours. So the goal this year is to finish writing the next album. We're about halfway done, and record at the end of the year. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's the timeline we sort of set for ourselves.
Is there like an idea? Are you trying to maybe do a similar thing on what you did on Relentless Mutation to this new record, or are you going to try to maybe do something a little bit different?
Like sonically, like sound-wise, I think the sound we have and that we got on Relentless Mutation really worked, and the goal is not to drastically change anything. Yeah, it works. This is the sound that sort of is Archspire, so we want to keep going with that, and hopefully make a better product.
Yeah. You got to give us more than a half hour worth of material, though.
Yeah, I think it was 35 minutes on the last. I think it was like a cool 35 minutes. Yeah.
What I was curious about is because the record was very, very, very consistent. Like, this is one of those songs where if you like Involuntary Doppelganger, you'll like The Mimic Well, you'll like Calamus Animate, Dark Horizontal, etc. So it's fair to did the making of each song kind of like maybe get a little bit easier with the making of that record because you kind of like had a formula that worked?
It felt like, for the most part, it felt fairly smooth. You hit these roadblocks every now and then, and you get stuck at a riff. But once you kind of fix that problem, it all starts to come together, and like you'll find like, okay, we're good, we're moving, and then you get stuck, and you might be stuck in that riff for a couple days, and then once you're moving again, the song is finished, okay. Right? But it can be frustrating, yeah. But yeah.
Well, you mentioned that last year you told me, and I was actually surprised that the order that we hear it on the album was the order that the songs were in. So Involuntary Doppelganger being the first, Dark Horizontal being the last. Like, was that like a preconceived idea?
While we were writing it, the plan was not to put them on the album in that order. But when we were discussing the orders of the songs and like what way we want them on the album, like that just seemed to make the most sense for us, and it seemed to flow. Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm not sure if it'll be the same for this album, but that's just the way it sort of worked out.
Now, I remember when we were talking when you played in Brooklyn this past summer that your bass playing style is actually really influenced by playing guitar. Like, you're using hammer-ons, you're strumming. I was curious, how did that come to be exactly?
I never had a formal bass lesson, so when I picked up bass, it was just sort of, figure out how to make sounds and keep up. And so I did like flamenco guitar, and so I just sort of took some of those ideas that I already sort of had in my technique repertoire and just applied them to bass and looked at players I liked and how they might approach the instrument and copy that. Yeah.
Well, because what I find unique is like being a bass player, you have to follow both the melody and the rhythm as well. So are you like, and being that your music is super fast, you have to keep up with the tempo, but I've noticed in Human Mummification, I think I saw you like doing hammer-ons.
Yeah.
So do you like follow a certain element, or does each song call for a new approach that way?
I mean, you could say like, you want to follow the drums rhythmically, and then strengthen the guitars melodically. But at the same time, you sort of have this whole frequency range to yourself, and you can kind of get away with sort of whatever you want as long as you keep those two things in mind. Okay. So, yeah.
Now, as somebody who's seen Archspire live numerous times, it's like just the crowd interaction and, the use of lights and everything is always a completely different experience than just simply listening to Archspire. So for you, is there maybe a similar energy that you channel into your live presence as you do when you're in songwriting?
No, it's two completely different mindsets. Really? Yeah, you're playing live. It's like execute, high energy, like go. And writing is more of a less intense. It's more of a slow kind of. We got time to sort of think about these things, and we're building it as we go. And yeah. The riff names is important too. That can honestly be the hardest part is finding the right riff name.
Yeah, I think that's what Toby said last year. It takes you like an extra half an hour to come up.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Are there any new ones that you've come up with?
I
got Ollie is less fat but still fat and bald, and Baby Cried at Own Wedding.
Yeah, we had what was this last song? We have Ratmon. I don't know. It's like a Rasta Ratmon.
And what riff? And when was this riff?
Oh, we also got Rock and Roll Dog Patrol.
Okay,
so
and
that was a good one.
Which riff was that?
This is new stuff. This is all unreleased material. Rock and Roll Dog Patrol is a good one.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to hearing that. That should be the name of the album.
I don't think so.
And finally, let's just do the gear rundown. What is like your choice of weapons? Because I feel like for the type of music that you do play, you kind of need like a certain guitar, a certain amp to really sort of fit the sound, right?
Yeah. So I'm using my Kiesel Icon 6-string bass, which right here, and I'm running that into a dark glass rig. So I've got the dark glass hyperluminal compressor now into the X7 distortion pedal, and I run that into my M900 version 2 head, and then I'll be running that into two of the new dark glass cabinets that they've just released this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned, kind of going back to that question about you originally being a guitar player, is that why you use a 6-string bass as well?
The previous bass player in the band used a 6-string, okay. So I picked up a 6-string mostly because of that. Yeah.
When you joined Archspire, because I know you weren't on the Relentless Mutation was your first contribution. So were you looking at the previous album, being like, "This is what I have to do," or did Toby, Jared, and Dean and Ollie, or Toby, Dean, and Ollie want you to bring a little bit of your own mix?
I looked at sort of the bar that was set on the previous stuff, and I'd learned all that material, at least the ones we performed live, and said, okay, well, this is sort of what I have to. This is what I have to try to outdo this. I have to try to sort of use this as a jumping point and kind of say, well, okay, this is the way he did it, and it really worked. It was fretless, and I kind of said, well, I don't necessarily want a fretless bass tone, and I want a more aggressive sound, and so I use that as I use that as a starting point, and tried to raise the bar a little bit more on this album, I hope. Yeah.
So before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for your time. Great to chat with you again. Is there just anything else with Archspire you would like to promote, or any shows coming up, or are you just focusing more on writing for 2020?
Right now it's just writing. So that's the number one goal right now, is finish writing this record and get back out on the road again.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing you again.
Right on, man.
You destroyed the Kingsland. I think they're still damaging.
Oh, good. That was a fun one, too. That was a great show.
Yeah. Middle of summer.
Yeah, that was hot. That was hot.
Well, Jared, always great to see you.
Yep.
Everybody, Jared, a.k.a. Bone Mop of Archspire. Be sure to pick up Relentless Mutation if you haven't already. New stuff coming soon. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.